Hello everyone, I'm Vyoma Rao, and today at the Finance Story, we have the honor of interviewing one such gentleman who has gained immense amount of knowledge by experimenting with his career. From India to the Gulf, he has worked with several big fours and has over 7 years of experience in international taxation, mergers and acquisitions, private equity, and much more. With great pleasure, I would like to invite CA Harsh Doshi. Hi, Harsh. Why don't you tell us something about yourself?
Hi, Vyoma. Thank you so much for the introduction.
Harsh, just give us a little bit of understanding of your background.
So basically, I come from Bangalore. I am a qualified chartered accountant by profession. I have been working with the Big Four in India, and then from there I moved to Oman again with a Big Four. So the journey has been quite fantastic because I was privileged to work extensively with a lot of multinational companies. I've had the privilege of handling a lot of complex tax matters, and during my journey, I also was privileged to meet some of the best people who I know and who inspire me to grow in my career.
Once you qualified as a chartered accountant, was it always in your mind that you wanted to join a big four or a multinational company? Or were you very sure that you wanted to go into this field of mergers and acquisitions and business restructuring?
When I first qualified, like during my articleship itself, I was very clear that I do not want to do audit because it involved a lot of traveling and it became slightly monotonous routine when I was doing my articleship. So tax, on the other hand, was something which really excited me because it involved a lot of interpretation of rules and regulations. And by the very nature, interpretation is something which is an analytical skill. And as long as you can justify your interpretations, you can sail through an argument. And I felt tax is something which I would be comfortable working with. And also, tax can bring and add value to the businesses because there are always means in which you can optimize taxes. So this was the first thing which I was very sure about. Now, when I qualified, but I had given a lot of thought about it, and then I chose to pursue Big Four because I wanted to have the consulting experience in me at the beginning of my career. I did not want to straight away get into an industry. Hence, I felt I would get the right amount of experience by associating with uh, with the Big Four, and I would get the subject matter expertise. And it so happened that the available opportunity which was there at that time was to work on the mergers and acquisitions field. So I felt this is a very niche field where not everyone gets in the first go. So I was lucky. So maybe it was right place, right time for me.
So, tell me something about your dynamics with your seniors at EY or at any of the big fours that you've worked and the role that they played in mentoring you as a consultant today.
Yes, I mean, being in Big Four, I was given the right Big Four treatment. Things were not easy on me at the first instance, and I don't take it on a negative way, or I don't take it as a thing because I felt it was needed to to go through the hard way, to go through the journey, because it really helps you to better in the long run. So I've had a lot of seniors who have invested a lot of time in me in the beginning, and they were always there to support me and guide me through the entire process. So I felt that beginning was very important with EY and with Deloitte because that helped me evolve and that helped me actually understand what is happening. Otherwise, without that guidance and that support, maybe I would have just ended up doing things without knowing it. So yeah.
Okay, now that you
And
bring that
Big
up,
Four really gets and
yeah,
Big
yeah,
Four
please go ahead.
really sometimes gets the best out of you. So
Absolutely, absolutely. You shifted from India, Bangalore, to be more specific, to Oman in 2018. with an opportunity with KPMG. Was that opportunity that something came to your way, or were you in active pursuit of something abroad?
So honestly, when once I qualified and once I got into EY and Deloitte, and things were going very good. So I was not really aware that the Indian CA can work even abroad. So I always felt that if I have to work abroad, I would need additional degrees. For example, either a CPA or an MBA of that respective country.
Yeah.
So it later came to my awareness that the Indian CA is also good enough to work in the Middle East and in other regions as well. Okay, so you need to have the right skill set, and then you can be as mobile as possible. So that was something which I did not know. So once I got to know, I got this opportunity with KPMG Oman. Now I had my initial doubts because I had never been to the Middle East, and I felt I did not know how things would turn out to be, because it was something which I had to step out of my comfort zone. And at that point of time, honestly, I asked myself that what is the worst that can happen to me? Maybe Oman would not be a place that would suit me, but the experience of stepping out of your comfort zone to live on your own and to work and grow in your career, maybe that experience would be exceptional. And that's how it turned out to be. And I instantly then pursued this opportunity. It was a very big shift for me personally, because first time I'm stepping out of home, and I've always been very closer to home. But now when I think about it, I'm very happy and pleased for that decision which I took, because that later turned out to be a stepping stone for me for where I am currently and what I want to pursue.
Okay, absolutely. It's sort of an amazing journey when you are changing geographies. Oman and Bangalore have very different cultures. Was that very evident in your work environment?
Not really, actually. Oman as a place was a very welcoming place. Oman is a beautiful country to begin this Middle East journey. The locals were very humble, and I gained a decent work experience in Oman. In terms of the working environment, uh, it felt like home, because I was working with, I mean, the tax team were filled with Indians. So it was not a very culturally different for me, to be honest.
What was the task that you were doing for KPMG Oman?
So in back in India, I was more into the advisory role, where I was advising clients on deals, on mergers, on be it any share transfer. It was mostly to do with advisory on restructuring activities, which is very critical for any company, because those activities do not happen quite often uh, in a company's journey. So those are critical activities where you need specific and niche advice. So when I moved to KPMG Oman, it was more about, yes, there was a bit of advisory, but it had compliances and litigation. So that was something which was new for me, which I was handling. Initially, yes, there was a lot of support from all my team members, but then later on, once I got used to things, once I picked up, I was handling the tax assessments, or dealing with the local Omani inspectors. So that was a very new experience for me. I was doing it on my own independently, and I was also involved in a lot of restructuring activities, also being part of the corporate tax and international tax department. So that way, yes, the learning opportunities was immense. I felt, and some of the nicest, or some of the best work I've done so far belongs in Oman. So I'm very lucky to be part of that organization.
It's really good to hear. Now you mentioned that there were a lot of Indians in your department when you went to Oman. So what is your suggestion for all those newly qualified chartered accountants if they wanted to try their career in Middle East?
uh, yes, there are a lot of opportunities in the Middle East, because now tax is something which is maturing, so it's not something which is saturated. In the Middle East region, tax is maturing, so there is immense look out for good talent pool in this region. So for newly qualified chartered accountants, personally, I would advise them to work for a couple of years, at least 2 years in India, if possible, and then with that experience come to the Middle East, because once you directly come straight away into the Middle East, and if it's your first job, then I think the learning experience will be better if you carry something with you. Okay, that is what I would. That's what I personally advise my friends as well. That just finish 2 years or 3 years in reputed companies or the Big Four. Carry those brands with you, because that gives a confidence. Even to the companies who are recruiting here in the Middle East, that yes, you are fit, to be part of our organization because of your history. So for me, yes, one of the reasons I got in this place was because of the brands which I was carrying with in my profile.
But what if you are working for a mid-sized firm, a reputed one, but a mid-sized firm? Is your experience important? Is the way you portray important? Or it's just that to get through in the first round, you need to have some brand on your resume?
I think it's a mix of both. But the short point is, as long as you're skilled, as long as you're a subject matter expert of what you're working with, recruiters will come looking out for you. Okay, so it's all about. Sometimes it's all about being lucky. Again, it having the brand is also important, but at the same time, you need to really have that skill set with you. You need to ensure that you are good enough to clear the interviews, and at the same time, once you get in, you are able to handle the work matters. You are able to work as a team, and you are able to then progress in your career.
Okay. The audience would like to know how the tax system or the tax structure in Gulf is different from what it is in India. I mean, you mentioned that the tax system is maturing there. So what are the key pieces of difference that you find in the tax structures in both these places?
So if I have to compare India and the GCC or the Middle East, so I feel India is already quite evolved to that extent, because taxes are existing from a very long time in India, and the rules and the regulations, they keep changing on a very frequent basis. So now everyone is equipped with what tax means in India, whereas here tax is a very new concept. So first, it's a mindset change, which is the first difference which I see, because not everyone is used to tax. Not everyone is used to VAT. VAT has been recently introduced, but back in those days, it was a very new concept. Okay, now the thing is, when I have to compare, first is Indian taxes are very complex. Now, if I look at the GCC taxation, it is getting equipped to that level of complexity, because it will take time. It is not something which will happen instantly. Uh, the level of complexity also is a good thing for professionals, because that will keep them in demand. That will keep them well equipped with the latest regulations. So that is one thing. And second thing is, I think the area of litigation is also very different when it comes to Indian and the Middle East regions. And there is always a scope where the Middle East also will somewhere, in the next 5 to 10 years, get where, or somewhere near to regions which are matured, like, the India or EU or UK.
Okay, so you mean to say that since it is maturing, there's a lot of scope for new talent, as you said, if they want to pursue a career in, say, Middle East, what are the means to upskill their tax knowledge, and what are the sources that they can refer to?
There is this course called ADIT where you can advance on international tax transfer pricing. Then there is, various initiatives which is organized by the ICAI Dubai chapter. So they come up with a lot of GCCVAT courses, diploma courses. Then Now I'm very sure there will be a lot of material and guidance and sessions and conferences on the upcoming corporate tax in
Hmm.
UAE. So
Hmm.
that way there are a lot of avenues open. PwC, for example, conducts this diploma course in GCCVAT. So that way there are many ways in which you can upskill and you can equip yourself with what is happening being in India.
In taxation, what is the field that you think is going to survive most or is going to make a lot of noise? And a lot of people choose transfer pricing. Why do you think that is the most common choice in people as well?
Uh, Multiple reasons. First is transfer pricing. As a concept, it involves dealing with your intercompany transactions, your cross-border transactions. So when we compare it to VAT, VAT is specific to a transaction, and the impact is to the extent of the rate. So here in UAE, it is 5%. Okay. Whereas transaction for transfer pricing covers the entire base. So let's say if you're transacting with your related party, if you are having a cross-border transaction, intercompany purchase or an intercompany sale, okay, so that entire amount will be subject to litigation. Okay, so that is a very wide exposure, very wide scope. Second thing is dealing with related party is your sister concerns is something which not everyone is well equipped of. Everyone needs to become very conscious about it because you can no longer have transactions where there is no need to maintain documentation. Now you need to have justification for all your transactions. You need to ensure that those transactions are benchmarked to a certain threshold. Okay, so transfer pricing, I personally believe transfer pricing will be the next big thing because that is something which all multinational companies will somewhere look up to because TP is something which even in complex tax regions such as UK, US, or EU, transfer pricing is the biggest area of litigation and the biggest concern for any large MNCs.
Okay, thank you so much for your insight. So, have you seen that impact on businesses? Is tax becoming an important function in the organizations falling within the GCC regions? Is there any change or shift in management thinking and perceiving the fact that tax needs to be at the forefront?
Absolutely. I think it is one of the key agendas for any CFO or the senior leadership because tax comes with a lot of necessity to comply. Okay, so you can't be non-compliant when it comes to taxes. You need to ensure your compliance is accurate. So there is a big need of having a tax department within an organization and ensuring that you get the right advice which is matching the business models, which is in line with the business organization structure and also complying with what is the regulations and the rules. So that way, yes. Now recently, last year there was this change which was brought up by in KSA, which was e-invoicing. So all your invoices have to now have a QR code which is mentioned, and you need to ensure those are archived. So that was the phase one of e-invoicing. Now the second phase will be that there will be a complete an automatic integration of all your invoices and those will get uploaded in the tax authorities portal and it will get instantly approved. So if there are any changes or if there are any glitches in this, then your invoices cannot be processed. And only once that process is complete, you can then issue the invoices. So these are evolving changes, which are coming up now. Whether it is an IT project, whether it is a legal project, whether is it a tax project, at the end of the day, it's all compliance. It's how quick companies are proactively adhering with the new requirements. Okay, so that is one thing. Second thing is tax litigations have become quite are picking up in this region. So that whenever a tax litigation comes up, that's when large organizations, they become alert. They then realize areas where which should not have happened but have happened. Okay, and then they start looking for a corrective approach, because at the end of the day, no organization wants to pay. No organization wants to become non-compliant or not comply with any regulations. So in terms of tax litigation, when it leads to any fines or penalties, then that is not something which any organization wants. So that becomes a goodwill issue as well. So tax, I think, is a very important field, and it is something which is going to drive for a lot of MNCs for the next 5 to 10 years until matters stabilize.
Okay. So currently, with your level of expertise, I have to now ask you that is it similar to what you were doing in Oman, or is Dubai experience very different?
It is completely different. The first difference is it is working with an industry. So I've been working with consulting from the start, and this is the first job which I am working in industry. So when I first began, I got this quite often, that stop being a consultant. Okay, stop having a consultant's mindset here. I never knew what that actually meant. Now, when I look back, all they were trying to say that, think from a very holistic point of view. Don't try to just advise and stop things, because the main reason in working in an industry is that uh, it's how you interpret the advice which you get from consultants, and then you choose which is the best one for the business and the end-to-end implementation. Second thing is, working in an industry, there are a lot of business functions, a lot of dependencies which you have, because tax is one important function where a lot of people, senior people also in the organization, they look up for. You can't go wrong in your advice. Okay, so it plays a very critical role. Uh, Third is in terms of the day-to-day work matters. It is about handling all the tax matters. So in my portfolio currently, I handle VAT, international tax, corporate tax, then the taxes in the respective regions, for example, zakat and even transfer pricing.
You have moved from the big fours to industry. Do you think that there should be an in-house dedicated tax department, or should organizations rely more on the expertise of external advisors?
I think having an in-house tax department is essential, but you can't roll out the support which you get from external consultants. So you need to have a dedicated team within your organization, and on a time-to-time basis for specific matters, you need to refer back to consultants, because even though I may know the answer, or I may know what is happening, but to get a perspective when the stakes are pretty high, it's always better to take a consultant's advice, who's the subject matter expert, who knows what is applicable to the other companies for the specific sector in which we operate, and then advise us. So, and also sometimes for senior management, they get a better comfort, for critical matters, if it's coming from external advisors who we trust and who we rely on. So yeah.
I just wanted to understand that while people are hiring for these companies or for any jobs related to a finance portfolio or a tax portfolio, what do they look for in the professionals while they are interviewing them? Are there any specific points which people should work on?
uh, I think um, like I think the hiring managers, they just want people who can present themselves well, and someone who can work as a team together. So so far, my experience in, even in terms of recruiting my team members, I keep the approach very simple, the questions also very basic. And because what I have experienced is, it's the simple questions that are, at times the most difficult to answer. So because when you are preparing for an interview, you are expecting something out of the box. But when you're put across a very different situation, when you're asked to speak on the basics, okay, so that's when it, even for the recruiter, it is easier to judge. So I would say, work on your basics, ensure whatever is there in your CV, you should always be able to justify. Do not override things. Always have a always have a story which you can tell, which is real and which you can prove when it's asked for. And I think like because tax is in demand and the finance role will always grow, there will always be a scope of having quality people. And because in a 15-20 minutes interview, it is very difficult to judge a person. So it is just on what you have written and on basic questions. You need to be very clear about it. Another piece of thing which I have noticed and which probably I would point out is, let's say if you're applying for an industry, okay, it's always better to know in which sector the industry operates, and at least to know what are the industry issues which are currently prevalent, so that that gives a comfort to the recruiter that he or she is well prepared about the place where they are looking to join or associate.
Okay, thank you so much for this input. If I'm applying right now, and if I have, say, 15 days to research on the subject matter, what are the other government sources where, websites where I can go on and find out about the tax system in the Middle East?
There are a lot of public documents which are available. Like, for example, all the big fours, they issue their tax guides. So for KPMG, you have KPMG MISA document. EY has a worldwide tax guide. Then in, let's say, for example, if you're applying for a company which has operations in 4 or 5 countries, okay, you can go and just Google about the respective tax overview or tax highlights. So tax highlights is something which Deloitte issues on a yearly basis. If you just type Deloitte tax highlights and 2022, you will get a detailed document, and you can choose the country in which you want to get insights about. Then apart from that, let's say if the role is specific to VAT or the role is specific to transfer pricing, you can just brush upon that. What are the concepts of transfer pricing? What are the current areas of what is new which is happening in transfer pricing for that country, or in general what is happening in the latest rules, or what is the latest news about any regulation. You can always reach out to people who and essentially it's your connections which matter. So the more you're connected to people, the more you are approachable to them, you can reach out to them, and you can get a better insight of what is it exactly which is required for this profile.
So how keen would you be to respond to people who will be reaching out to you on LinkedIn with a query related to how to go about their careers in the Middle East?
I would be more than happy to do that. I mean, I have been, helping all my friends and even people who reach out to me on LinkedIn about if there is any tax opportunity. Then if there's something which I know, I just forward their CVs to the people I know who are recruiting. Or if there is something else which is which I can be a part of or which I can support, I always, help them out. I tell them what they need to do more in their CV in terms of how they can answer, like I told you, those basic, fundamental questions which are normally asked in an interview. So yes, I always try to, extend my support and help to the extent possible.
Splendid. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vyoma.